The content presented is for entertainment purposes only. Some content may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. And another one.
Bites the dust.
And another one gone, another one gone, another one bites the dust.
So I opened up Snapchat, and one of the first...
How dare you, sir? We just started a podcast.
No, so...
Just kidding.
No, so I opened up Snapchat because I was interested to see what people were doing in their stories and stuff. And one of my coworkers posted in her story this little sign. It's like one of those signs where, like, you know, you can move the letters around so it says something different.
Okay.
So this one says, if God can make a bug's butt light up, think of what he can do for you.
What?
I don't know, man.
If God can create the platypus, it's a very strange creature. It's like a duck beaver, but it has venom.
I saw this thing that was just like, when God created spiders. All right, let's give him 8 legs. Okay, that's a little excessive, but okay, so it has a stinger coming out of its butt. Like, okay, you need to calm down, sir.
Spiders don't have stingers coming out of their butts.
Not all of them, some do. And then
spiders?
Yeah. Anyways, and there was like,
which species?
I think some of the black widows have.
No.
Anyways,
they have these things called mandibles, and they bite you, and their venom actually comes through their mandibles, or their fangs, I guess you should say. They don't have stingers.
I'm not super knowledgeable about this.
Okay.
But it was a meme I saw. Memes are not always reliable, so bear with me. Anyways, and then you're just like, okay, a little excessive, God. You need to calm down. And then he interrupts him, and he's like, give it a butt rope.
Give it a butt rub?
Butt rope. Sorry.
A butt rope. Oh yeah, because when they the
webs
the webs that they create from their sacks that they have, which I mean, I'll be honest, I was actually a pest control technician for 3 years, and so that's why I was like, wait, what are coming out of spiders' butts?
Give it a butt rope.
Butt rope. Got it. Makes sense. Okay. So here's another pre-record for you guys. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about a controversial subject. Can't even talk today. And the context is about racism in our country. Now, we had an opportunity to spend a lot of time out east in a lot of these areas, which are predominantly Americans who happen to be black. What are some of the experiences that you had with the people out east?
I mean, I kind of feel like the experiences were similar but different, just like in living here. I mean, it was really interesting, just like kind of going grocery shopping. You walk into a Walmart and you're the only white person there. It's like you got because the majority of the community is black, and you're sitting there like, okay, so I guess I'm the only hippie here. So, and it was interesting too, because it was like I was getting a lot of interesting looks. Like, I noticed people like staring at me a little bit, and I was like, this is kind of weird, but all right. So I noticed that I was definitely like stared at a little bit more than
because you were obviously out of place.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I also learned out there that like some people prefer you to use the term black instead of like African American, because not all not all people of color are African American. because they could be from somewhere else.
Yeah, like Nigeria or there's a lot of different places.
Like they could be Jamaican. So
yep.
like
there's actually a lot of Guatemalans that look almost black.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, and like when I was installing, I noticed that like a lot of the customers that I had were actually really polite and like very kind to me.
What you mean? You weren't racially profiled or treated differently because you were white?
Not really, not that I noticed. I mean,
that's interesting. I thought, well, okay, so here's the thing that's really interesting about not only social media but MSM, mainstream media. They perpetuate this notion that racism is basically exactly how it was back in like Martin Luther King's day. And I actually disagree with that notion. I do believe that there is a very small, very left-leaning, very radicalized group of people who believe that racism is just as bad as it is now than like back in like the Jim Crow days, as bad as it was, back in the 50s and 60s where we're trying to transition away from racism. And it's just, I don't see it. Now, part of that could be because, we grew up out west and the areas that we lived in were actually predominantly, white, Latino, sprinkles in with everybody else in it. And so we didn't really get to experience a lot of people, that happened to be black Americans. Where we got to go out east and actually live and experience the people where they're predominantly black people. And the only thing that I saw that was different is that obviously the cultures are different. I mean, between east and west, it's very different. The food's different. The way people talk are different. They have a different accent. But I, just like you, I found that the people that we serviced, worked for, that was a bad term. The people that we worked for and installed these security systems for them, I found, just like you, I found them, very happy. I found them very kind. I also found them very funny because they had a really great sense of humor.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see families, like when you start out with like just like the wife, because like a lot of times they sell the system with the wife or the husband, and then like the kids kind of trickle in like from school, and then they're like talking about their day, and all of a sudden they're cracking jokes, and then dad comes home from work and they start cracking jokes, and like the wife and the husband start like playing off each other. I'm not going to lie. I've never laughed so hard in my life with a black American family while I was trying to install a security system, like to the point where just like, okay, my side's hurt. I'm crying right now. I really need to get this done so I can get to the next job.
I will say one thing that I really appreciated too was like, I think I was definitely fed more at the house.
Yeah.
So like, I remember
all the time.
There were a couple of houses like, in Texas, there were barbecues going on all the time.
Oh yeah.
And there were a lot of families that were just like, hey, do you want something? But like, I think out in Maryland, like I didn't spend a whole lot of money on food as much as I did out like in Texas and Indianapolis. Yeah. But in Maryland, like people were constantly cooking and like offering me food, and I was like, that's so nice of you.
Yeah.
Here I am drilling holes in your wall and you're offering me food. But But yeah, I just it was nice to be fed a lot more than I would have been in Texas or Indianapolis. But yeah,
this was before your time, but I also got to install near and around Cleveland, Ohio, where a lot of the cities it was predominantly black as well. Same thing. Like we had some sketchy instances that happened outside of the homes.
Yeah, but
again, for the most part, very kind, very just great human beings.
Yeah.
And so what was really interesting is that lately I've been trying to find more, like to see more of like the different sides of things than what I normally understand or what I feel about things or what I think about things. And I try to expand not only to understand what's going on from different sides, but also to challenge what I already know, to see if maybe there's something more or something different. So I try to watch something like a documentary or, watch a different side, like politically viewed wise, just to kind of get like different sides of the story and stuff like that. And in this process, sometimes I find things that align with me or maybe don't align with me, but I find that I want more of, which is really interesting. And so have you heard of the Hodge twins?
No. Tell me about it.
So they're two gentlemen who are very black, very handsome. They've been on Louder with Crowder many times, apparently. I just learned about. And they're more conservative, which is really interesting. You don't see a lot of black American conservatives like on different platforms. And it could possibly
be more democratic.
Yeah, they tend to be more democratic, more left-leaning. So it was really strange for me. I was just like, well, wait a minute. I keep going back to the Biden commercial. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And I'm just like, wow, that's silly. But it was really interesting because I sat down and I watched one of their videos. And this particular video was debunking white privilege. And I was like, well, this is interesting because not only am I getting it from a view that's more, I'm more of a centrist, maybe a little bit more right-leaning, depending on the situation. But they were able to take some information and really laid it out to like it's just this big myth that people are just like making up to divide people. Not only from like white privilege or whatever, but like racism is just as bad as it was back 40, 50, 60 years ago, which is absolutely nonsense. And part of that is because we basically took the laws that were in place that were racially motivated and basically took away that power from people to basically say, well, you're a certain race that I don't agree with, so therefore I'm not going to give you my services. We actually removed a lot of that stuff back in the 60s and 70s. One of the biggest things was redlining. That was removed from law back in like 1963, 65, somewhere around there, where basically they could draw out different districts or areas where they basically said, okay, well, if I put a red circle around this home, that means that I don't have to give them a loan, basically. I mean, it's a little more deeper than that, but that's the essence of it. And so when I was watching this YouTube video, I had all this information in my mind, and they basically were laying down facts where they were taking like census information from like, I think it was like 2018, where basically part of the white privilege myth is that white people are basically making all the money and marginalizing, black people, which is an absolute myth. But it was really interesting to see the information. They actually kind of outlined it, and you can see the median incomes, which is basically like middle income averaged. And the median income for a white household was not even in the top 10 of the median income. Actually, the number one was Indonesian Americans, and they make on average as a median income over $100,000 a year, which I thought was really interesting. And so they go through this information, they talk about it, they joke, they're very comedic. Excuse me, in their application of talking about serious topics. So they're absolutely hilarious. But it was interesting seeing it from their perspective instead of, because in this day and age, like, white people can't talk, right? Like, according to social media, mainstream media, like white people are bad apparently. And so when I compare and contrast, the years of experience that I've had literally living with these people, these black Americans in their societies and in their culture, finding them very pleasant, very warm, very welcoming, very kind, not seeing not only racism against myself because of my skin color, but not seeing racism against them because of their skin color, which makes me believe that, again, it's a small radicalized group, and then mainstream media and social media are signal boosting these very heinous, very unfortunate situations that happen, like a white cop, physically harming like a black kid.
Yeah, I do think that there are like some police officers that like do abuse their power in that and will like take advantage of another person's skin color and will like go that route. I also think that there are instances in the community where those of color will kind of have that self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like the oppression comes from like themselves, where it's just like, oh, you're doing this because I'm black. No, I'm afraid because like of like the body language and the way that you were talking to me. And like in the language that you were using with me is like threatening. So
I think there's definitely individual cases where they're like individuals that do have like racial biases.
Yeah, it's definitely a case by case kind of thing.
That's what I'm thinking too.
I can hear your caller.
Oh my goodness, we have absolute cuteness down in the basement. One of our doggos just came down to say hi. They've been hiding upstairs under the bed because it's been thundering and lightning outside, so they're terrified of that stuff.
Excuse me, yawning a lot. I'm really tired. Come hang out downstairs.
No, you're good. Hey Boomer, how's it going, buddy? And anyways, back to what I was saying. Yeah, I mean, I definitely disagree with the notion that there's still systemic racism. Like there's like laws in place which disallow certain individuals because of the color of their skin, which doesn't allow them to do certain things. I don't think that there's any of that. And if we do find it, we definitely need to point it out. We need to change it. Obviously.
Agreed.
I think we can all be arm in arm and actually fight against that if we see it.
Yeah.
Let's point it out. Let's get it taken care of. But what I don't like is like when mainstream media like blasts out that there was a white cop, that did something to a black kid, and it turns out that it wasn't racially motivated. Go back and do all the body cams, and there was nothing nefarious about it. It was the cop doing his job and did it properly and did it by the book. However, there are some instances where they don't. And so when we find those individuals, obviously they should not be in a place of power, but I really disagree with just automatically boosting a case just because of the racial differences.
Yeah.
I think that's misleading, and I think it's disingenuous, and I think it doesn't help the situation with any of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen instances I think I saw a body cam a little while ago about it was like a white officer arrested a young black teenager for he had something on him. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like of course this kid had to like sit in the back of this cop's car. And they were waiting for something. I don't remember. I need to watch the video again. It's been so long since I've seen it, but like they were just having a conversation. The cop was asking him about his hair because he had dreadlocks in his hair, so he was like just asking about it, like how exactly do you get it like that, and like just like showing interest in this person, and like they were just having a conversation, just talking about it, and then like not even a minute later, this kid pulled a gun on the cops, and it turned into a shootout, and it was like, okay, well, in this instance, like it was, and this is an instance where it was not the cop's fault, because the cop didn't shoot first, so
right,
yeah, but yeah, there are instances like that, and then there are also the times where you see the body cam where it's just like, whoa, this officer is going way out of line, and there is definitely no need for him to be handling this individual in that way.
Yeah.
Like that's not.
And they definitely should not. They should not have their job anymore if that's the case.
Agreed.
They should be investigated, thoroughly, and
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think one of the biggest parts of like a police officer's job should be to like support the community. Like you're there to protect, you're there to support. So.
Yeah. They're to protect and serve. Who are they supposed to protect and serve? People in the community that they serve.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So I saw a TikTok video the other day, and it was a guy where he just got finished search, like this white cop finished searching him, and he basically said, "You're free to go." And he basically gets on TikTok and basically mouths off, like basically telling, "Oh yeah, this cop, he just basically stopped me and searched me because I'm black. He took my phone away and blah blah blah."
You have your phone. Come on,
I'm just like, dude, what are you talking about? And so I actually went back and found the actual original footage from the body cam from the cop from start to finish. And basically, it was out in California, and basically. It's illegal to jaywalk in California. I think it's like a $25 fine, and you can get ticketed for jaywalking.
Okay.
So it's basically nothing. But so basically the cop, like this guy jaywalked after purchasing some items from a store he was visiting that like he owned or something. I don't remember those details, but I do remember, it was like two or three cop cars, they stopped and they said, "Hey, it's illegal to jaywalk, and they asked him for his ID, and he voluntarily gave up his ID, and they said, "Hey, is it okay if we search you?" He voluntarily said, "Yes, it's okay to search me," and they searched him. And they said, "Okay, well, we're just going to run your car, your license for warrants, and then you're going to be free to go." And then that's all it was. And they basically gave him back his ID and said, "Okay, you're free to go. We're not going to give you a ticket or anything." And he was just like, "Oh yeah, you're not going to give me a ticket right now? Oh, okay. So you stopped me because I'm black." And that's when he got on TikTok and made his TikTok video. And I was like, what is going on right here, right now?
Yeah, kind of jumping to conclusions.
Yeah, and it was by the book. The cop was very kind to him, very nice to him. And in fact, he was just like, "Dude, why are you doing that on TikTok, man? You're changing the narrative of just what happened here."
Well, okay, so let's go back. Let me ask you this then.
Okay.
So what was this kid wearing?
Normal clothes. Like he didn't have like sagging jeans or anything like that. He was just wearing normal clothes.
Okay. What do you mean like normal? Was it
like it was like a t-shirt, jeans, sneakers?
Okay.
Like nothing innocuous, nothing that would say, "Hey, I'm a hoodlum."
Okay.
Or, "Hey, I'm up to no good." He was just carrying stuff that he purchased, like in a bag, and he dressed just like normal, like anybody else would.
Okay. Do you think this cop would have done the same thing if it was a white guy, clean, and was wearing like a business suit?
I honestly don't know. I don't know the intentions of the cop.
Okay.
But it
just a thought.
But just from the objectivity of the situation, it seemed like it was a routine, like
just
being
following
detained
procedure
because he jaywalked, and he didn't even give him a ticket after it was all said and done. Which I think was actually really nice because cops can just like add all sorts of stuff and try to give you tickets and stuff.
Thankfully, I've never been given a ticket.
I haven't had too many.
Person. I've gotten tickets mailed. I've gotten tickets mailed to me, which in most states, like if you don't acknowledge it after a certain amount of days, it doesn't really do anything. Because after a while, like it does, like the ticket isn't valid if it's not paid and if it's not handed to you by an officer. Washington, D.C., however, will come after you.
Mm-hmm.
But
is that like one of those traffic cameras that caught you?
Yeah. I caught a couple because it was like, because it's a super wide lane and the speed limit is 25, and you need to go 25. And if you're going over, that cam will snap your picture.
Yeah.
And they will send you a ticket in the mail. This is Washington, D.C. They will come after your ass. Like,
it was very different out west, where they didn't have the power to actually, enforce those.
Yeah.
Which was which was great on the citizen side, but it sucked for them because they basically had to turn off majority, if not all, the cameras and basically stop utilizing them after like putting millions and millions of dollars into it, which is really sad.
I'm knocking on wood, saying that like I've never been handed a ticket by an officer.
That's awesome.
I'm sure it'll happen one day.
I've had like a handful, but I'm also 20 years up on you, so
yeah.
Well, maybe not that many.
I was gonna say don't say 20 years. Like that's not.
Yeah.
It's less than.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Going back to the whole racial thing, when a cop car is following behind you, how do you feel?
Anxious. I just feel a little bit. It's weird because like I know, like I should feel safe, but at the same time it's just like, well, what if his lights go off?
He's like, pulling you over for something, probably speeding or rolling through a stop sign.
Yeah, I get very scared when a cop is like following very closely behind me.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, like the other day, I think it was like a couple weeks ago. I was coming back from St. George, and I was going about 7 over the speed limit, which is like that's my cap. Is like 7.
That's your personal, like, I'm not going over this.
Like my personal cap is 7. Sometimes, like, very rarely I'll like hit 10 or 15 over. Again, that's very rare. But like, yeah, I was going 7 over the speed limit and past this cop car that was sitting in in one of those places that you know where cops will sit like in between the lanes on a freeway.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're literally just waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just waiting for somebody to speed so I can get them.
Exactly. So highway patrol,
entrapment, in my opinion. But go on.
Yes, you're right. So it looks like I'm not wearing pants in the video. I promise I have. My jugulars are covered.
Yeah, Alakai is fully clothed, just in case anybody wants to know.
Sorry. Anyways, was going 7 over the speed limit, past this cop car, and immediately like just started slowing down. And as I was going, like, as I started slowing down, this cop pulls out, and he starts driving like behind me, and I'm like, oh, great. So immediately I'm going the speed limit because it's like, no shit.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I'll slow down and maybe he'll let me off.
Yeah, but like,
because at this point you think you're boned.
Yeah, so I was so scared because like, it was just one of those moments where it's just like. Yeah, now he's coming out.
Yeah,
and like he's coming out when I pass. He didn't pull me over, but eventually like his lights did go off, but he pulled over somebody else.
Yeah,
and I was like,
dodged the bullet.
Yes, my anxiety spiked for a second there. Like I was just so nervous. I was like, it definitely felt like he was waiting because cops have a quota that they need to meet. Like the department has a quota that they need to meet as far as like tickets go and like and all that. From what I've heard and from what I understand. But yeah, I was really nervous that I was gonna be like about to become part of that quota. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, this sucks, but all right.
I think everybody feels that. I don't think there's anything racially behind it at all. I think everybody gets nervous and uneasy when there's a cop car behind them.
Yeah.
And I experience this actually too, like at least once, maybe twice a day, because I'm driving so much in and out of different parts of the city that inevitably there's probably going to be a cop end up behind me.
Yeah.
Just because we're going the same direction at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And every time it happens, I get nervous. I actually go, I wonder if he is going to pull me over. And so I'll actually merge into the other lane, or I'll pull off to the side of the road and stop and see if he continues on.
I think especially like if I'm going to a place where I'm bringing adult beverages, like sometimes I'll have like one of my bottles of liquor that might be open. So it's like, okay, like you've really got to pull me over when I've got this in my car. Like, come on, dude.
Well, as long as it's closed and it's behind, like it's in the back seat, I think you're fine.
Yeah, but
the thing is, if it's sitting in your front seat or in the front, I think that's a no-no. I don't think that's legal in Utah.
9 out of 10. Sorry, cops. 9 out of 10 times when I'm driving to places where there will be adult beverages going on, like I'll usually have it up in the front seat with me unless I'm driving with somebody else. I'm usually driving on my own, so it's like. I guess I should probably start putting it in my backseat.
Yeah, you need to start putting it in your backseat. At least that's what my wife has told me. She's like, yeah, it's illegal to have it in like up in front. You have to put it in back.
It's just convenient because I don't want to like get out, open my back door.
Yeah,
but I guess it's also convenient to not get a ticket.
Yeah.
So
it's also very convenient for you not to, want to take a sip while you're driving.
Well, I don't
think you would ever do that. But I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
In general. Like if somebody really likes to drink and they have their stuff up front, it's possible they could open it up and start before they get there.
I'm not taking it. I'm not taking any.
So don't take that chance, people. Put it in your back seat.
Yeah, I do have a code where if I'm getting behind the wheel after doing something, I need to be able to walk in a straight line. And if I can't do that, then I'm not driving. So
yeah.
Granted, I actually still can walk in a straight line when I'm under the influence, but I mean, I'm talented like that. No, I'm just kidding. But no, if you hear the words come out of my mouth, let's do some shotguns. Like let's shotgun a beer. It's no. I need to stay put for a minute.
All right. Here's another interesting question. So. There are some things being taught, not only in like on the college level, but it's starting to kind of seep into like the high school and elementary level, where they're starting to teach this thing called critical race theory.
Okay.
And part of it is to basically teach kids. Where was I going with this?
You tell me. You're the one telling the story, man.
Wow. I think I might not be very as focused as I am on this.
This is how I feel half the time.
But critical race theory is basically teaching like white privilege, teaching kids that all black people are marginalized by everybody, especially white people. It's basically like racism against white people. I'm just going to say it like that. I'm just curious. Have you ever been oppressed racially?
Me?
Yeah.
Not that I can really think of. I think in my culture, in Polynesian culture, sometimes it's like you get some teasing from the culture. It's just like, oh, you got the howly skin. But I mean, it's not like meant to be violent or anything. It's just
or like racially disparaging. It's just
it's
like, hey, you're lighter than me.
It's not discouraging or anything. It's like it's just
okay.
So often it's just teasing. But I don't think that I've ever been racially oppressed in any way.
Okay. I don't think I have either. But I did have a jerk try to do that.
What do you mean?
This is when we were in Maryland. So basically, we had a pretty good diverse team, which was actually really interesting. We had 3 black guys. We had like 3 or 4 Latino guys, and the rest were white guys. So it was pretty wide range.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was one guy who had he was a very toxic human being. Like always going against the flow, always saying, I'm going to do what I want. I don't care what you say. And I was trying to, manage them and try to lead this particular individual. And it got to the point where he was doing things that was against company policy. Is doing things that wasn't correct with the procedures and how to install things. He was treating people very rudely on the sales and technical side. And I confronted him to retrain him, be like, hey, you can't really do this. This is kind of how we're supposed to do things, and this is how we're going to do this. This is how we do that. He basically told me straight up, you are not going to tell me how I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. And I don't care what you say on many occasions. And I tried to be nice about it. But it got to the point where it was like, okay, this person is actually changing the dynamic of the team because of how against the things that he's supposed to be doing in his job. And so I wrote him up.
Okay.
And it was just a small correction because several times he would basically go on a job late at night and decide he didn't want to do it, schedule it for a Sunday, and then no call, no show the customer. And he's done it like 3 different times. And so I was nice about it the first couple of times. The third time I was like, okay, I got to write this guy up. So in retaliation for me writing him up for doing stuff outside of our policies and procedures with the company, he decided to try to convince my roommate to lie to the company that I was discriminating against him because of the color of his skin.
I think I remember you telling me about this too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And thank God that, and also thank that person that was my roommate that had a conscience. And it's just like, dude, like, I know the situation you're in. I know what's going on. He's like, don't worry. Nothing's going to happen with this. But he basically let me know about what was going on. And I was like, wow, that's pretty messed up. But honestly, I don't think he did it because I was white. I think he did it because he was an asshole. And part of that is because I found out that not only was he trying to do that, but in his previous employment, he won a discrimination case against that company and won a lot of money.
Interesting.
And so it was very fascinating to think that somebody would do that to somebody and basically take away my livelihood just because he was sore that I pointed out something that needed to be changed. And it wasn't that big of a deal. All he needed to do was either just do the job that night, or if he did schedule it out, he needed to complete it on the day that he scheduled it out for. Yeah. That's all I asked him to do. But he took it as, aha, the white devil. Well, I don't think it was the white devil. But I think he's just like, oh, I'm going to peg this asshole. And that was really interesting because I had really good manager and technician relationships with everybody else on the team, including the other 2 black guys, which I had 0 issues with. In fact, they were some of the funnest guys. I loved going on their installs because they would crack me up all the time. Very jovial, very nice, kind people. And it was just like really sad that that particular person just decided to be a jerk and try to turn it around and like was putting my livelihood in jeopardy just because he didn't want to do what he was supposed to do for his job. It was really annoying. So I don't think I was discriminated against because of my skin color, but I definitely think he was a jerk.
Yeah, just blowing things out of proportion, just like like what I was saying earlier, like that self-fulfilling prophecy of like, oh, see, I gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I've ever had like any experiences like that, but damn.
That's the only one I've ever had. And I honestly think he's just being a jerk.
Just trying to get you in trouble for something that like wasn't.
It wasn't a reality. It wasn't even like in the realm of something that was real. It was something that was completely fabricated in his mind. But then I later found out that was the way that he thought about all things. When it came to authority, when it came to management towards him and doing his job the way he's supposed to be doing it, he always took it as, oh, well, you're doing this because I'm black. And that was his mentality. And it's really sad.
Oppositional defiance. I mean, like literally anything that you tell me to do, I want to do the exact opposite. And I'm going to find ways to like, I'm not going to lose. And if I lose, you are coming down with me.
Yeah.
So.
That's kind of that was kind of his thought process. And it was really sad because outside of that, he was actually a pretty decent guy. He was actually, I mean, I wouldn't say he was the best human being I've ever met in my entire life, but I would say that he would have been cordial enough that we didn't have to have all of that drama.
Right.
On top of everything else that was going on that was dramatic in that during that season.
Washington D.C. was wild, man.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And that actually wasn't the scariest place I've ever worked in, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. Cleveland, Ohio was definitely scarier.
I think like
We had a shooting outside. Me and Jacob were installing cameras on two houses right next to each other. We were actually having issues because we kept trying to learn them in at the same time. It was really funny.
I think you and I had that issue once.
We're getting cross signals and stuff.
Yeah.
And there was a shootout right in front of the house. Like we were there outside when it happened.
Yeah,
It was
I
very
think I
sketchy.
remember both you and
It was in
Jacob telling
Cleveland.
the story of like, oh yeah, like we had to duck under the windows and like I think
we all ran inside. We all ducked under the windows, and we called the cops. 20 minutes later, they rolled through and disappeared into the night. And that was it.
Yeah, it's
Because
crazy.
it already
how, like,
happened.
normal
Because
that
as soon as
is,
it happens, everybody's gone. Like it just scatters.
911 really is the cleanup crew, I guess.
Well, it's very reactive. It's really hard to be proactive to know.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you know where all the hot spots are. But what about the spots that are hot just in that moment? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, and it was one of those times where all these kids were just hanging out, like sitting on the back of the car, and all of a sudden raised voices and pat 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 pat. And I was just like, oh my gosh! And there's this kid with a gun in his hand, just walking down like he's some big swinging dick. Like, That's what I thought. That's what I thought. And I'm just like, dude, seriously?
What is going on here?
Yeah, I was just like, what is happening right now?
I do remember. So when we were living in Washington, D.C., I remember like Maryland wasn't that bad to be around. But when we were in Washington,
in D.C.,
when we were in D.C., when we were in the city, like the safest place in D.C. was probably just Washington Monument. Like that whole area was probably where it was like safe.
Yeah.
But like once you like started getting out to where like the clubs are, where like the city is, it was like, yeah, no, you want to keep your doors locked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember, like, I think I remember hearing gunshots like down the street from our Airbnb, from where we were staying.
I think I slept through them. I remember it actually the next morning. You're just like, dude, Jay, did you hear the gunshots in the middle of the night? And I was just like, what gunshot?
Because
I was sleeping like
yeah,
like, you know.
I think I heard him a couple times. I remember like the night that I was leaving, or like the morning that I was leaving, like I had gotten home from a job. Oh yeah, it was from doing that one, I don't want to say his name, like the sales rep's job that like ended up becoming like number one in the company. Did that very late night job. He paid me extra money.
Oh yeah. I remember that one. Yeah.
So got home super late. Got home at like 3 a.m. because I ended up finishing like around 2.
Yeah, because he like demanded it. He's like, no, it's going in. I'm like, great, pay up.
Yeah, and it was like it was understandable, and he ended up being he was a really great sport about it. Like honestly, he had his moments, but he was a damn good sales rep.
Yeah, like they were all in their own right nice people for the most part.
I think I would have worked with him again.
Yeah.
If I would have been like, dude, if you want to go sell, and I'll just be your tech for the week, like let's do it. But
yeah,
I would work with him again if I was given the opportunity to.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember doing that install for him that night, getting home at like 3 a.m, unloading like all the equipment out of my car and everything. And like as I was unloading, like I could hear gunshots down the street.
Oh jeez.
I was like, should I stop? I should probably go inside. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think I heard some other gunshots like at another install, but like not close enough to make me feel like, oh yeah, I'm in danger. But you know, yeah, wild man. Maryland in general was like okay, but if you got into the city in DC, it was like, yeah,
super sketchy.
Yeah. And I remember even like having a Skype session with my family and telling them like I'm freaked out to be here, and they were I I remember my sister had like looked up the crime rate in DC, and they were like, yeah, this is like one of the highest crime rates
in the country,
in the US. And
I think it's definitely in the top 5.
It's got to be in the top 5.
I think it's in the top 5. Yeah,
but yeah,
it's pretty bad.
Crime rate is huge. Granted, like, understands why literally everybody in the city has security.
Yeah,
I remember the majority of the systems that we installed were taking over other systems.
A lot of them were, yeah, for sure.
I think that was the year that I got really good at hardwires.
Yeah,
because I was just constantly doing them.
Yeah,
and eventually it just became like rinse and repeat. And a lot of them were super easy too, because you could just plug in right in the box. So
yeah, and it was usually like 3 doors in a motion, so it was like 4 zones, super easy.
Yeah, I loved doing those, because they were like those neighborhood, like it came with the neighborhood.
It was like a newer built up, and so we'd come in like 5-8 years later and just like wipe them out.
Yeah, those were
super
nice.
fun, because you knew exactly where they were, exactly how you were going to do it. It was super nice. It wasn't like a lot of unique homes in some of those areas, which was really nice.
Yeah,
cookie cutter stuff.
And you could ask them like, okay, so what brand of security do you guys have? And they would tell you the name of it, and you're just like,
I know what I'm gonna
do.
I
got you.
I got you.
I got you.
I got you.
Well, I'll be done in like an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, I remember like the hardwire takeovers doing those systems would take me about, it would give me like an extra 30 minutes on the ticket. But then like learning those, it was like, psh, I can get this whole thing done in an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man.
You know, it's been a while ago, but I remember there was a single mom that I did an install for. And while I was doing the installation, one of her younger boys, he was probably in his teens. He was probably between like 14 and 16. I don't think he was driving yet. But he had a cell phone. He was talking to one of his friends, and he was using the N-word a lot. And I was just like, you know, like when I hear something, I'm just kind of taken back a little bit, and I do the big eyes. I'm just like, whoa. And without batting an eye, she went over there and popped him in the back of the head, and she's like, "You do not use that word in our house. Like, you understand that has disparaged our, our culture and our people for so many years. We do not use that in my home." And I was just like, dang, Mom, go get him. Yeah. And here's the thing too, is that words are just words. Now, can they be hurtful? Can they be offensive? Sure. Can we take it in an offensive way? Sure. But either it's all okay or it's all not okay. We can't cherry pick and say, oh, well, only this, the people in this culture can use this word, but the people in this culture cannot. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
But I personally, I do not like the word. And when I hear other people use it, no matter what color they are, I'm just like, could you please not use that word? Like, that's just not something that I want to hear. Kind of like the C word for women.
Part of me wants to say, like, honestly, I don't give a shit. But at the same time, like, I did work at a boarding school where we had to, like, shut down really inappropriate music when it was being played out loud on speakers, because we had neighbors.
Right.
So I had to get to the point where it was like, okay, we're shutting this song off because I have heard the N-word at least 9 times in the last 30 seconds.
It's not even like 2 minutes into the song, and you're like, well.
And I am done.
Yeah.
Like that I would correct. But I mean, like, other than that, honestly, you want to use whatever speech you want, use whatever speech you want. I don't give a shit. But like,
I don't like forced speech, and I don't like forcing people to filter themselves if they don't want to.
Yeah. I would never say it because I'm white. So like,
well, the basis of the word is just basically, obviously we have the negative racial, negative context with the word, but the basis of the word is actually out of just the term meaning black, the color black. But because of the context that it's been used in for so many generations in the past, it's given it a negative context, just like the word bitch, for instance.
I don't even like using the word bitch.
Well, that word was used as a way to describe a female dog. It's a bitch, right? Well, that's also a term that's used negatively in the negative light against women.
Sure.
And that's something we don't want to use. Well, at least, I mean, in our culture and in our friendship, we don't like to call women bitches. But
if I'm like really
not supposed to, that's what I'm saying. Like culturally, we're not supposed to.
If I'm really, really close to somebody that's like my age, I will call them a bitch. Because
like I'll call a female character like in a story.
Oh yeah.
Like or a movie or in a book. But yeah, like I'm not gonna call like.
I'll be honest. Agent Stahl from Sons of Anarchy, she's a bitch. Like
yeah.
I just got to the point where they finally killed her. But
yeah.
Oh man, that whole thing. Oh, it's getting crazy.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
So bottom line, I don't know where you think we're at in the world, in our culture. Do you feel like there's a culture of racism against black people in general?
Yes, I do. I think like even we unknowingly and subconsciously, or not just like unknowingly, we can be racist ourselves.
How so? Help me understand that.
I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like the fact that sometimes like conversations will kind of tiptoe around it, like, because it's like, oh, I don't want to be offensive, and it's just like in that way, like sometimes that can be like a little offensive. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like.
Okay, so like here's an example. You need directions to get to your buddy's house.
Mm-hmm.
Your phone is dead. There's a white guy and there's a black guy in your immediate vicinity that you can ask for directions. Who do you ask?
Whichever one is standing closer to me. I don't know.
See, that's how I view it too. Like just a little story. You all know that I do like DoorDash and Uber Eats. And one of the days I was delivering, I got a lot of deliveries over at the university. Mm-hmm. And I hate delivering there because there's never directions. I don't know the campus very well. And so I'm always lost as soon as I get there. Mm-hmm. And so, again, for me, it was the closest person that was there. There was two guys that were walking. They were both two young black gentlemen. And I asked them, I was like, hey, guys, I'm sorry to bother you, but I don't know the layout very well. Do you know how to get to this building? I think it was like the Sheridan something or other. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, yeah, you just go over here and go over there, walk down that hallway, and it's the first door on your left or whatever. And I was like, awesome. Thanks, guys. Great. Like, I have no problem asking for directions from somebody, no matter what color they are. Mm-hmm. But I guess I need to kind of understand more to understand if we have like unconscious biases. I mean, I think because of the culture that we grew up in, if you grew up in a culture that was predominantly white, you might navigate to a lighter skinned colored person. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's inherently racist. Is it racial in nature? Sure. But I don't think that's racist.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't really understand it. Like
okay. My thoughts, like this is like regardless of color or, sure, color can definitely have like a factor into it, but the United States now I think is more divided than ever.
Oh, I completely agree.
But
I think it's perpetuated by social media and mainstream media in these very small radical groups.
Right. There are also still areas where racism does take place. And that has to do with certain individuals treating those of color as less than human.
So like organizations,
not like
KKK or...
Well, sure, but like I'm talking about like just people who are raised differently. Raised by those who like lived in a time where black and white were separated.
Right, so, but that was like what? I want to say 6 generations ago?
Yeah, but again, like if you look look at some places like down, like back south,
Like way down south?
like Mexico.
No. I mean,
No, I'm talking about like I don't know, like when you're referencing
what do you
the
mean?
South,
Like where?
like I don't know exactly where, but like when people reference like the South, I don't know where.
I don't know. When
Yeah.
people reference the South, I think like the southern parts of Georgia or like
Sure.
Louisiana or like
These are places that I've never been, so I have
Yeah.
no idea.
yeah, like,
But like
the southeast. Like when I think of South, I think southeast.
mhm. So like
But that could be because of where I was raised and the culture I grew up in.
right. So yeah, like there's still those that treat those of color that there are individuals that treat those of color as if they are less than human. Like racism is still like it exists.
Absolutely. I'm not
That's-
discrediting that there is no racism in our country. I really do believe that there are individuals that are racist. I'm sure that there are organizations. I'm sure that there are places where it's predominantly white racist people.
Mhm.
I'm sure that's
Right.
there's places where people congregate and that's the case.
Right.
Absolutely. I
That's
completely
exactly
agree.
all I'm saying.
Okay. I completely agree with you. There is that.
I think like I was very fortunate to be raised in a place that like had lots of diversity, and I was lucky enough to have parents to like raise me in a way that was like treat everybody as like a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't matter the color of their skin.
Yeah, it matters to who they are
or their
inside.
culture. Yeah, it's like
Pigment is it's just pigment. I
yeah,
mean,
it's just like
you can't control that as much as you can't control how you breathe.
yeah, no. My parents were like, no, like everybody you meet is smarter than you in some way, and whatever you want to learn from them, that's up to you. So
Okay, well, if you wanted to get athletic wisdom from somebody, would you ask a black person or a white person?
I mean, whoever has the athletics experience.
Exactly. Whoever is the one with the knowledge
I'm like, well, which one
and
of
the
you?
know-how. Which one of you are an athlete? You know?
Which one of you plays basketball or whatever? So,
But I must say, like, we do live in a day and age where there's a lot of Americans who are black who have had it great in this country.
mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the individuals that are in sports right now.
Fair.
And a lot, which is absolutely great, and it's awesome to watching 7-foot people who who can
7
just
feet,
dunk
damn.
the basketball and can palm the whole thing. Like, I think it's really amazing. What about in music?
Jimi Hendrix was so innovative.
I mean, hip hop and rap predominantly.
Yeah.
Black people. A lot of jazz, a lot of R&B.
Yeah.
Predominantly black. I think we live in a great day and age.
John Mayer did get a lot of his influence from Jimi Hendrix, from what I understand. So
I don't doubt it. I mean, he's definitely one of the greats in our day and age for sure.
Speaking of which, John Mayer had a new album come out. So if you got a chance to listen to it.
Oh, I'll have to listen to that. I like John Mayer.
Yeah. I like John Mayer for like his skills on a guitar, cuz he like does his own lessons when it comes to like jazz music, and learning how to play that kind of music is very Hi,
we're just wrapping this one up. And then we'll come upstairs.
Okay.
It's good to see you.
It's good to be seen.
Well, anyways, guys, I mean, I hope we open up a dialogue. I'm sure. I mean, we all learned a lot of great things in this episode. But thank you so much for watching, and you stay safe out there, San Diego.
Why San Diego?